Victoria Winters didn't like being late. Not to business meetings, not in life. At 40, she was a successful woman executive who had transformed a small advertising agency into a multi-million-dollar company with branches in 3 cities. Her partners respected her, competitors feared her, employees valued her. A cold mind, iron discipline, and a principle to win honestly. No dirty schemes, no compromises with conscience. This morning started as usual. 6:30, a light jog through the park, shower, business suit the color of wet asphalt, minimal makeup. Victoria didn't waste time trying to be liked. She spent it being the best. She arrived at the office at 8, when the corridors were still empty and the cleaning lady was just finishing mopping the floors in the reception area. Ellen Crawford, a secretary of the old school, was already sitting at her desk. 58 years old, gray hair gathered in a strict hairstyle, glasses on a chain, and a gaze that saw through any lie. "Good morning, Mrs. Winters." She stood up, holding a tablet. "A young woman is here for an interview. Sophia Bennett, 24 years old. She sent her resume last night for the assistant director position." Victoria nodded, removing her light coat. "Show her in 10 minutes." The director's office was located in the corner of the building, with windows overlooking the boulevard. Spacious, bright, tastefully furnished, but without excessive luxury. Victoria never flaunted wealth. She sat down at the dark oak desk, opened her computer, and scanned Sophia's resume. An ordinary biography. University, bachelor's degree in management, 2 years working as an assistant at a small firm. Decent recommendations, but nothing outstanding. Victoria frowned. She needed someone capable, quick to grasp things, ready to work at a breakneck pace. Sophia entered at exactly 8:10, tall, slender, blonde hair to her shoulders. Victoria immediately noticed. The girl was nervous, too nervous. Her fingers trembled when she shook hands. Her voice sounded strained. "Please, have a seat." Victoria pointed to the chair opposite. "Tell me why you want to work here specifically." Sophia nodded, straightened her back. I've been following your company for a long time. You do quality projects. You have a reputation for honest business. That's important to me." "Honesty?" Victoria raised an eyebrow slightly. "A good quality. Rare these days." They talked for about 20 minutes. Sophia answered questions clearly, though the tension never disappeared. Victoria posed several professional challenges, tested her logical thinking. The girl managed. Not brilliantly, but respectably. "All right." Victoria closed the resume folder. "You're hired. Probationary period is 3 months. Salary will be discussed with accounting. You start right now." Sophia flinched, her eyes widened. "Right. Today? I don't have time to wait. Either you're ready to work, or you're not." "I'm ready." The girl exhaled. "Thank you. Thank you so much." Victoria nodded and stood up. "Ellen will get you up to speed. Sign the documents now, get your pass. By lunch, I'll give you your first assignments." Sophia left, and Victoria remained alone. She walked to the window, looking at the street below. Something about this girl was unsettling. Too grateful, too frightened, as if she'd come not to work, but to an execution. Victoria mentally brushed it off, probably just first-day jitters, stress. She returned to her desk, immersed herself in documents. The next 2 hours flew by unnoticed. Victoria sorted through contracts, approved layouts for a new advertising campaign called Partners. At 11, she summoned Sophia, gave her a stack of papers. "These documents need to be sorted by date and entered into the database. Can you handle it?" "Yes, of course." Sophia took the folders, pressed them to her chest. "Excellent. I'm going to lunch. I'll be back in an hour and a half. If you have questions, ask Ellen." Victoria took her purse and left the office. She had a scheduled meeting with a potential client at a nearby restaurant. An important project, a large budget. She couldn't be late. Lunch dragged on. The negotiations went well. The client was interested but liked to talk. Victoria listened, nodded, steered the conversation in the right direction. When they finally agreed and exchanged handshakes, it was already 12:30. Victoria returned to the office at 12:40. The corridor was quiet, most employees were still at lunch. She walked to her office, pushed the door open, and froze. Sophia was standing by her personal cabinet. She was wearing thin medical gloves. The cabinet door was open. The girl was quickly stuffing something inside, between folders. Then she closed the door, darted to Victoria's desk, pulled out the top drawer. "What are you doing?" Victoria's voice rang out like a shot. Sophia spun around. Her face was white, eyes huge. In her hand was a small transparent bag with some white powder. For several seconds they stared at each other. The silence was deafening. Sophia's lips trembled. Victoria stepped into the office, locked the door. Her heart was beating evenly, coldly. She knew how to keep herself under control. "Explain. Quickly." Sophia dropped to her knees. Tears streamed from her eyes. She was choking on sobs. "Please, forgive me. Your husband made me do this, otherwise. Victoria felt the floor disappear from under her feet. "Husband? Paul? What are you talking about?" She approached closer, forcing herself to speak calmly. "What husband?" "Paul Winters," Sophia sobbed, wiping her face with her gloved hand. He approached me a week ago, said you had a vacancy, that he'd recommend me. And then that woman came." "What woman?" "Camilla, the gym manager. They're together. She said that if I didn't do what they ordered, I'd have problems." "Big ones." Sophia raised her eyes to Victoria, full of terror. "My mother is sick with cancer. My brother is in college. Camilla said that something could happen to them if I refused." Victoria went pale. Paul, her husband. 43 years? No, 15 years of marriage. The person she trusted, whom she once loved, who in recent years had become a stranger, envious, angry. She knew there was a crack between them, knew that Paul was having a hard time dealing with her success, that he felt like a failure against the backdrop of her business. But this was beyond the pale. "What's in the package?" Victoria nodded at Sophia's hand. "Illegal substances." The girl barely squeezed out the words. "I was supposed to plant it in your desk. Paul said that in 15 minutes the police would come here, on an anonymous tip, that you'd be arrested for possession." "Be quiet," Victoria interrupted her. Thoughts raced at the speed of light. 15 minutes, police, anonymous call, possession of illegal substances, charges, prison, business collapse. Paul wanted to eliminate her. Forever. She pulled herself together. Panic was a luxury she couldn't afford. "Get up," Victoria ordered. "Go to the bathroom immediately and flush that powder down the toilet. All of it, every grain. Then the bag itself. Quickly." Sophia jumped up, nodded, rushed to the door. "Wait," Victoria stopped her. "Take off the gloves there too and into the trash, and wash your face, so no one sees you've been crying." Yes, of course." Sophia grabbed the bag and ran out. Victoria remained alone. She slowly walked to her desk, sat down. Her hands weren't trembling, her breathing was even, but inside a hurricane raged. Paul, her husband, traitor. Victoria remembered. A few months ago, Paul joined a gym, started staying late more often, citing workouts. She didn't pay attention, she herself had too much work. And he took a mistress. Victoria closed her eyes. So they decided to act together. Remove the lawful wife, take the business. The mistress apparently already saw herself as the new owner of the company. And Paul, finally a successful businessman. How wrong they were. Sophia returned in 3 minutes, face washed, eyes red but dry. Everything's flushed," she whispered. "Sit down," Victoria pointed to the chair, "and listen carefully." The girl lowered herself to the edge of the seat. "The police will come here now," Victoria began. "You will be silent. Not a word about what happened. Not a word about Paul or Camilla. Understood? But what about you? I know what to do. The main thing, keep yourself together. Work as usual. If anyone asks, say you've been sorting documents all day." Sophia nodded, but fear was in her eyes. They'll understand that I didn't complete. They won't understand anything," Victoria smirked, "because I'll play my role perfectly." At that moment, the door swung open. Ellen entered, face worried. "Mrs. Winters, there's police here. They say they received an anonymous message. They're demanding—" "Show them in," Victoria said calmly. "I'm waiting." A minute later, 3 people entered the office. Captain Ethan Walker, a tall man about 37 with an intelligent, skeptical gaze, and 2 sergeants. "Good afternoon," Walker showed his badge. "Captain Walker, police. We received an anonymous message that illegal substances are being stored in your office." Victoria stood up, smiled. "Wow, what a surprise. Please, inspect everything you consider necessary. I'm not going to wait for a court order. I have nothing to hide from the police." Walker looked at her carefully, then nodded. "All right. Thank you for your cooperation." Victoria opened the cabinet, the very one where Sophia was supposed to plant the package. She took out folders, laid them on the desk. Then she pulled out all the desk drawers, opened the safe, showed personal items. The police inspected everything methodically, thoroughly. Walker looked in every corner, even checked under the rug, but found nothing. "Strange," he muttered. "The information was specific. The exact location was indicated. Your personal cabinet." "Apparently someone decided to harm me," Victoria shrugged. "Competitors, envious people. I have a big business, Captain. Not everyone likes it." Walker nodded thoughtfully. "Possibly. Sorry for the inconvenience. We're obligated to check all reports of crimes being committed." "Of course, I understand." The police left. The door closed. Victoria exhaled but didn't relax. This was only the first battle. Ahead, war. She summoned Nancy Hartley, the company's chief financial officer, 52 years old, a loyal, experienced woman who had worked with Victoria from the very beginning. Short haircut, strict gaze, ability to hold her tongue, and loyalty. "Nancy, close the door," Victoria said when she entered. "We need to talk seriously." She told everything. About Sophia, the package, Paul, Camilla, the police. Nancy listened silently, her facial expression changing with each word, from curiosity to outright horror. "Bastard," she finally exhaled. "Excuse me, Mrs. Winters, but your husband is a complete bastard." "Agreed," Victoria nodded. "And now I need your help. Paul must think his plan worked, that I was arrested, that I'm in jail. Otherwise, he'll understand something went wrong and disappear." "What are you planning?" "I'll go underground, leave for somewhere safe. I'll conduct all business from there through you and through the lawyer. And I'll call Paul, tell him I was arrested. I'll ask for help. Let's see what he does." Nancy slowly nodded. "I can offer you my cottage outside the city. It's vacant now and has everything for normal life, and there's internet." "Thank you, Nancy. I always knew I could count on you." "He'll try to take the business," Nancy stated. "Exactly. And we'll give him that illusion. And we'll gather all the evidence, his every step, every order, every money transfer." "Mrs. Winters," Nancy looked into her eyes. "This is dangerous. If he finds out—" "He won't find out," Victoria straightened. "Because we'll act smarter than him. He thinks I'm weak. He's mistaken." Nancy stood up, extended her hand. "I'm with you. To the end." Victoria shook her hand, firmly, in a friendly way. "Thank you. Now call Sophia. I need to talk to her alone." When Sophia entered, Victoria gestured for her to sit. "You'll continue working here," she said, as if nothing happened. "Paul and Camilla mustn't suspect anything. If they contact you, Say everything went according to plan, that I was arrested. But what if they check? We'll make sure the information doesn't reach them. The main thing is your composure. Can you do it? Sophia nodded, clenching her teeth. I can. I'll repay them. For making me. You owe them nothing, Victoria said gently. You were intimidated, but now you have a chance to fix everything and start a new life. The girl raised her eyes to her, full of gratitude. Thank you. I won't let you down. When everyone left, Victoria took out her phone, dialed her lawyer, Eli Gordon, a man who thought several moves ahead. Eli, I need your help, urgently. Come to the office in an hour, and prepare for a long war. So it was. A battle had begun in her life, one in which she intended to win. Eli Gordon arrived exactly an hour later, a tall, fit man with a penetrating gaze and the manners of an old-school aristocrat. He had been Victoria's lawyer for 8 years, handled all her affairs, knew the business inside out, and most importantly, knew how to keep secrets. Victoria met him in the office. Nancy Hartley was already there, sitting in a chair by the window. What happened? Eli immediately understood the matter was serious. Victoria never summoned him in such a tone. She told him, briefly, concisely, without unnecessary emotions. Eli listened silently, only occasionally nodding. When she finished, he didn't hide his surprise. Your husband, then? He smirked without a trace of amusement. I must admit, I always felt that Paul disliked you. But to this extent. Envy is a terrible thing, Nancy noted. Envy and greed, Eli added, plus a mistress who fuels his ambitions, a well-known scheme. What do you suggest? Victoria asked. Eli thought, tapping his fingers on the armrest. The plan you've outlined makes sense. Paul must believe he's won. Then he'll relax, start acting openly, and we'll get all the evidence on a silver platter. Exactly, Victoria nodded. But I need guarantees, legal ones, so he can't wriggle out. All right. First, all his orders, instructions, money transfers must be documented. Nancy, are you ready to keep double books? Ready, she answered firmly. I'll show him fake reports and transfer the real ones to Mrs. Winters. Excellent. Second, we need recordings of conversations. If Paul contacts you by phone, Mrs. Winters, record everything. Every word can become evidence. I'll record, Victoria promised. Third, we need a witness. Sophia Bennett. She saw Camilla, heard threats. Her testimony will be weighty. Sophia agreed to help, Victoria said. She's frightened but holding up. Good. Then we proceed as follows. Mrs. Winters, you leave for Nancy's cottage tonight. Not a word to anyone. No one will know where you are except the three of us. In the evening you call Paul, inform him you were arrested. Cry, ask for help. I want to inform my secretary. I trust her. The lawyer nodded approvingly. And will Paul believe this story? Nancy doubted. He'll believe, Eli said confidently. Because he'll want to believe. He's waiting for this. He's sure his plan is flawless. And people blinded by greed don't see the obvious. Victoria stood up, walked to the window. Below, in the parking lot, stood her car, a silver premium-class sedan. It would remain here to make her absence look believable. In a few hours, she would leave this office, leave her home, become a fugitive in her own life. But it was a necessary sacrifice. When do we start gathering evidence? She asked without turning around. Immediately, Eli answered. As soon as Paul makes the first move, and he will, I'm sure of it. They discussed details for another half hour. Eli wrote down key points in a notebook. Nancy clarified financial nuances. When everything was settled, the lawyer stood up. Mrs. Winters, hold on. This won't be easy, but I know you. You'll manage. She shook his hand. Thank you, Eli. I'm counting on you. When he left, Victoria summoned Ellen. The secretary entered, as always, silently. Victoria told her everything briefly. Now she understood why the police had come. She was shocked by the scale of Paul's betrayal. "Ellen, for everyone, I'm going on a business trip," Victoria said. "For a week, maybe more. Forward all calls to my mobile. Sophia Bennett will help you with current affairs. Nancy is also aware of everything. And remember everything Paul says and does. You're closest to the director's office, and he'll want to occupy it as quickly as possible." The secretary looked at her attentively and nodded affirmatively. "I hope everything will be all right. You deserve it. You're the best boss." "Thank you," Victoria smiled. "I value you very much, too." Ellen nodded, but her eyes said she was afraid. Over the long years of work, she had learned to value good treatment from management, and she didn't want anything bad to happen to her boss. "All right. Good luck to you." Victoria spent the rest of the day sorting through documents, giving instructions to subordinates. She had to leave everything in order so the company would work without interruptions. Sophia sat at the next desk, silently performing tasks. The girl held up well, though Victoria saw her hands trembled when she took sheets of paper. At 6 p.m, Victoria packed her things, a small bag with the bare necessities, laptop, documents, phone, chargers. She looked around the office, her kingdom, her creation, everything she had built for 15 years. Paul wanted to take this away, but he miscalculated. Victoria left through the back exit so no one would see, got into Nancy's car, an old but reliable foreign car. Nancy sat behind the wheel, silently started the engine. "Let's go," Victoria said. Nancy's cottage was in the suburbs, 40 minutes' drive from the city, a quiet place, surrounded by pines, a small wooden house with a porch, well-maintained yard, silence and peace. "Here you'll be safe," Nancy said, opening the door. "Neighbors are far away, no one will see." "Thank you," Victoria entered. It smelled of wood and pine resin, simple, cozy. They had dinner in the kitchen. Nancy made an omelet and brewed tea. They talked little, each thinking her own thoughts. "I'll call Paul soon," Victoria said, finishing her tea. "Around 9. He usually goes to bed late." "What if he already knows nothing was found?" Nancy asked. "How would he know? The police won't spread word about an unsuccessful search. It's not in their interest either. And Sophia won't tell him. She'll confirm I was taken away. She's too frightened." "I hope you're right." At 9 p.m, Victoria prepared to call Paul. "Ready?" Nancy asked. "Ready." Victoria took out her phone. She dialed Paul's number. Rings. 1, 2, 3. "Hello?" Her husband's voice sounded calm. Victoria took a deep breath, then spoke in a trembling voice. Paul, it's me." "Vicky?" He immediately tensed. "What happened? Are you crying?" "Paul, help," she sobbed, simulating crying. "I was arrested. The police came to work. They found some package in my desk. They say illegal substances. I don't understand anything. They put me in jail. They only allowed me one call." "What?" Paul's voice was full of shock. Real or feigned? Victoria couldn't tell. "How arrested? What package?" "I don't know. I don't know anything. Someone planted it. Someone wants to destroy me." "My God." Paul fell silent. Victoria heard his breathing, heavy, uneven. "Listen, calm down. I'll figure something out now. We'll hire a lawyer, sort it out." "Paul, I'm begging you, get me out of here," she almost screamed. "It's scary here. I can't take it." "I'll do everything I can," he promised. "Don't worry, everything will be fine." "Thank you," Victoria sobbed once more. "Thank you, darling." She hung up, put the phone on the table. Nancy looked at her with admiration. "You're a real actress, Mrs. Winters." "Have to be," Victoria smirked. "Now we wait until tomorrow, and for now I need to rest." Victoria went to sleep in a small room. The bed was narrow, the mattress firm. unusual after her spacious bedroom at home and huge bed with an orthopedic mattress. But she didn't complain. This was temporary. Soon everything would be over. Sleep didn't come immediately. Victoria lay staring at the ceiling, replaying the conversation with Paul in her head. She hoped she'd played the role perfectly. A frightened wife, arrested unjustly, begging her husband for help. Paul had to believe. Morning came gray, overcast. Nancy was already up, making coffee in the kitchen. Victoria washed up, dressed, drank coffee standing, and Paul didn't make her wait long. In the morning, he managed to call Nancy. "Nancy, did you hear?" His voice sounded agitated. "Victoria was arrested." "Yes," Nancy feigned shock. "Ellen told me this morning. What a nightmare." "Something needs to be done," Paul said. "The company can't be left without leadership. I'll take over management temporarily, until Victoria is released." "Of course, Mr. Winters," Nancy agreed obediently. "You're her husband, a full participant in your joint business. You have every right." "Excellent. I'll come to the office in an hour. Prepare all the documents on current projects for me, and financial reports." "Will be done." Nancy hung up, looked at Victoria. "It's begun." "Yes," she nodded. "Now he'll show his true face, and you go to work. Meet him as appropriate." Nancy gathered and went to the office to meet Paul and observe his actions. Paul arrived at the office exactly at 11. Nancy saw him through her office window. He looked agitated, but poorly hidden joy could be read in his eyes. He entered Victoria's office, sat in her chair, looked around, then took out his phone, called someone. "Everything's going according to plan." The secretary in the reception area heard his voice, pressing her ear to the slightly open office door and turning on the recorder. "Yes, she was arrested. No, she doesn't know anything. Now the company is mine." He was talking to Camilla. Ellen recognized the name when Paul said, "Camilla, don't worry. Soon we'll be together. Officially." Ellen quietly left the reception area, went to Nancy's office, turned on the recorder on her phone. Now every word of Paul's was being recorded, and they knew his plans. The women exchanged conspiratorial glances. Paul summoned Nancy to him in half an hour. "Nancy, I need all the company accounts. Full access." "Of course," she handed him folders. "Here are the main accounts. Here are the reserves." Paul flipped through the papers, nodded. "Good. Now listen carefully. I want to transfer part of the funds to other accounts, for security, in case the police block Victoria's assets." "I see," Nancy pretended to write. "To which accounts?" He dictated the numbers. Nancy recognized these were accounts opened in the names of shell companies. Paul had been preparing for a long time. "How much to transfer?" she asked. "Let's start with 5 million. Today." "All right." Nancy returned to her office, closed the door, took out her phone, called Victoria. "He started," she reported briefly. "He's demanding to transfer 5 million to fake accounts." "Transfer," Victoria answered calmly, "but not to his accounts, to my reserve ones, and show him fake confirmations." "Understood." Nancy worked quickly, precisely. She transferred the money to Victoria's secret account and printed fake receipts for Paul. He didn't even check them. Believed immediately. "Excellent," he said, putting the papers in the safe. "Tomorrow we'll transfer another 10. "As you say, Mr. Winters." He left at 6 in the evening. Nancy waited until his car disappeared around the corner, then called Victoria. "He received fake receipts, thinks he already owns 15 million. "Perfect," Victoria smirked. "Let him think, and the real money is with us." "What next?" "Next we wait. He'll act bolder, make mistakes, and we'll document them all." The next day, Paul came to the office even earlier. He summoned several key employees, announced he was temporarily taking over management of the company. "Mrs. Winters has faced legal problems," he said at a general meeting, But we won't stop. The company will continue working. Employees exchanged glances. Some nodded, others frowned. Ellen sat in the corner, face impenetrable. After the meeting, Paul called Camilla again. The secretary again eavesdropped on the conversation through the slightly open door. "Yes, everything's under control," he was saying. "The company is mine. Employees are obeying. 1 more week, and we can officially register everything in my name." "What about Victoria?" Apparently Camilla was asking. Paul answered, "She's sitting. I didn't hire a lawyer for her as I promised. Let her sit longer. It's even better this way." Camilla was saying something. Paul was cheerful and pleased with himself, spoke with a smile. "Of course, darling, of course." The secretary recorded everything and passed it to Nancy. Every phrase, every detail. In the evening, she passed the recordings to Eli Gordon. The lawyer listened, nodded. "Excellent. We already have enough for a case, but the more, the better. Let him dig himself a deeper hole." 3 days passed. Paul felt like the master. He gave orders, signed contracts, transferred money. Nancy dutifully showed him fake reports and transferred the real ones to Victoria. Camilla came to the office twice, behaved like the mistress, talked to employees condescendingly. Sophia saw her, went pale, but remained silent. "Soon," Camilla told Paul in his office. "Soon, I'll become your wife. Official." "Yes, darling." He embraced her. "We'll get rid of Victoria forever." And Victoria at the cottage worked with Eli Gordon. They collected evidence, systematized, prepared the case. "A little more," the lawyer said. "Just a bit more, and we'll strike." "I'm ready," Victoria answered. "More than ready." Paul was triumphant. He thought he'd won, that his wife was broken, the business his, the mistress by his side. But he didn't know the main thing. Victoria Winters never gave up. And soon he would find out. A week had passed since Victoria's supposed arrest. Paul felt on top of the world. Every morning he came to the office, sat in his wife's chair, and enjoyed the power. The company was working, money was flowing, employees were obeying. He had finally become what he'd always dreamed of being, a successful businessman. On Wednesday evening, he met with Camilla at an expensive restaurant. She was radiant in a new dress he'd bought her the day before, burgundy, figure-hugging, with a deep neckline. Camilla knew how to look like $1,000,000, even if she didn't have a penny in her pocket. "You look especially handsome today." She ran her hand over his shoulder when they sat at a table by the window. "Success suits you." Paul smiled, poured her wine. "This is just the beginning, darling. Soon we'll live completely differently. Big house, expensive cars, travel, everything you've dreamed of." "And Victoria?" Camilla took a sip, looking at him over the glass. "What about her?" "She's sitting," Paul shrugged. "I'm deliberately not hiring her a lawyer. Let her suffer. The longer she's there, the better for us." "What if they release her? What if the case falls apart?" "It won't fall apart," he said confidently. "She has no proof of innocence. And the anonymous call to the police can't be traced. We took care of that." Camilla smiled, satisfied. "You thought of everything. I always knew you were smarter than her." Paul enjoyed the praise. He liked how Camilla looked at him, with admiration, with adoration, not like Victoria, who always treated him condescendingly, as if he were an appendage to her business. "You know," he leaned closer, "I've already started transferring the company to my name. In a month, everything will officially be mine." "How?" Camilla was surprised. "Is that possible while she's not divorced from you?" "It's possible," Paul smirked. "I'll forge her signature on the documents. I have samples, and a notary acquaintance who doesn't ask unnecessary questions." Camilla laughed, cheerfully, joyfully. "You're a genius, Paul. A real genius." They drank wine, made plans. Camilla already saw herself as the mistress of a mansion, the wife of a millionaire. Paul promised her everything, Diamond rings, a wedding in the Maldives, a honeymoon on the coast. And at that time, in Nancy's quiet office, a recorder was capturing their every word. Paul didn't notice that Ellen had installed a microbug in the upper pocket of his jacket 2 days ago when he left it on the back of his chair. At the cottage, Victoria listened to the recording. Her face remained calm, but her eyes burned with cold fire. "Forgery of signature," she said quietly. "Excellent. That's another charge." Eli Gordon nodded. "Fraud on an especially large scale, plus attempted theft of property, plus conspiracy. We have enough to initiate a criminal case." "It's too early." Victoria shook her head. "Let him transfer at least part of it. Then there will be even more evidence." "Are you sure? The longer we drag this out, the greater the risk he'll suspect something." "He won't suspect," Victoria said confidently. "He's too self-confident. He thinks I'm broken, that I'm afraid, and I'm just collecting evidence." Eli looked at her with respect. "You're an iron lady, Mrs. Winters." "Have to be," she smirked. "In this world, the weak don't survive." The next day, Paul summoned Nancy to him. "I need all the company's founding documents," he said, sprawling in the chair. "Charter, certificates, everything." "Why?" Nancy feigned slight bewilderment. "None of your business," Paul answered sharply. "Just bring them." Nancy nodded, left. In the corridor, she met Sophia. The girl was carrying a stack of papers, face pale. "How are things?" Nancy asked quietly. "He's demanding more and more documents," Sophia whispered. "I'm afraid he's planning something." "Don't be afraid. We're controlling the situation." Nancy brought Paul a folder with copies of documents. She hid the originals in a safe to which he had no access. Paul flipped through the papers, nodded. "Good. Now I need a list of all the company's assets. Real estate, accounts, vehicles." "I'll prepare it now." Nancy left. She returned in an hour with a thick folder. Paul grabbed it, read greedily. "So much," he muttered. "Offices in 3 cities, warehouses, vehicle fleet. Victoria built an empire." He pronounced his wife's name with contempt. Nancy noticed, remained silent. "Mr. Winters, may I ask a question?" she began cautiously. "Go ahead." "Do you really think Mrs. Winters is guilty?" Paul raised his eyes to her, smirked. "Don't you?" "I've worked with her for 15 years. Nancy held his gaze. "I know her as an honest person. She never dealt with illegal substances." "People change," Paul shrugged. "Maybe she got involved with bad company. Maybe someone set her up. Who knows?" Nancy nodded, left. In the corridor, she took out her phone, sent Victoria a message. "He's calm, sure of victory." Victoria replied, "Excellent. Continue surveillance." On Friday, Paul brought his notary acquaintance to the office, a middle-aged man with cunning eyes and a perpetual smile. They locked themselves in the office for 2 hours. Ellen, as always, tried to eavesdrop, and heard fragments of conversation. Signature very similar. No one will tell the difference. Transfer to my name. Power of attorney backdated. Another 50,000 for silence. She quickly went to Nancy, who called Eli. "He's processing the forgery right now," she reported. "Perfect." The lawyer was pleased. "Let him finish. Then we'll present the originals and prove the falsification. Let him take as many illegal steps as possible." When the notary left, Paul called Camilla. "Everything's ready, darling." His voice sounded triumphant. "Documents are signed. In a week, the company is officially mine." "I'm so proud of you," Camilla admired. "You did it." "We did it," he corrected. "You were nearby, supported. Without you, I wouldn't have dared." "When will we finally be together?" "As soon as I divorce Victoria. I'll file the documents next week. I'll say she's in prison. The marriage can't be saved." "What if she gets out?" "She won't get out," Paul said harshly. "I'll take care of that." Camilla fell silent, then asked quietly, "How?" There are ways, he answered evasively. I'll plant more evidence if necessary. Victoria will stay there for a long time. Nancy, listening to the recording of this conversation in the evening, went pale. He's ready to plant new evidence, she told Victoria on the phone. This is already dangerous. Calm down, Victoria answered. He won't have time. We'll strike first. On Saturday, Paul arranged a meeting with the company's key clients. He introduced himself as the new director, explained that Victoria was temporarily removed from affairs due to personal circumstances. Clients listened warily. Some asked questions. Where is Mrs. Winters herself? Can we contact her? I'm afraid not. Paul smiled, but was restrained. She's currently unavailable, but I'm authorized to conduct all business on her behalf. Do you have power of attorney? Of course. Paul took out the forged document, showed it. Clients exchanged glances but didn't argue. Business is business. After the meeting, Paul returned to the office, poured himself whiskey from Victoria's bar. Expensive, aged. He'd never drunk during the day at work before. Victoria wouldn't have approved. He sat in the chair, leaned back, closed his eyes. Victory was sweet. The phone rang. Camilla. Paul, I miss you, she purred. Come to me today. I'll come, he promised. We'll celebrate success. He came to her in the evening. Camilla lived in a small apartment on the outskirts, rented it for $20,000 a month. Modest, but clean. Soon you'll move into a mansion, Paul said, embracing her. You'll live like a queen. I've already chosen a house. Camilla showed him photos on her phone. This one. 3 floors, pool, garage for 4 cars. I don't want to live in your ex-wife's house. Everything there is saturated with her. I need something of my own, new, luxurious. She scrolled through photos, her eyes burning with greedy fire. Look, here are panoramic floor-to-ceiling windows. Can you imagine how the living room will look? Marble floor, Italian furniture, check chandelier. And here's the terrace. We can hold receptions for 200 people. I want the whole city to know. We live for real. Paul looked at the photos, wincing at the price. Camilla, this is too expensive. Paul. She put her hand on his shoulder. Her voice became soft, enveloping. You're now the owner of a multi-million-dollar company. You can afford this. We've earned luxury. You've lived in Victoria's shadow for so many years, endured her disdain. It's time to live for yourself. She returned to the phone, enthusiastically telling, and I also found a yacht. Small, about 80 feet. Snow white, with cabins, a bar on deck. We'll go out to sea. Invite friends, throw parties. Can you imagine how everyone will envy? A yacht? Paul went pale. That's more millions. Paul, darling. Camilla ran her finger along his cheek. Don't think about money. There's a lot of it now. A lot. And I want to live beautifully. I've worked my whole life for pennies in that stupid gym. Smiled at rich fools who came to work their abs. Endured their whims, their rudeness. Now it's my turn to be the one they envy. She dreamily closed her eyes. I can already imagine. We arrive at a society reception. I'm in a couture dress, diamonds on my neck, expensive hairdo. You're in a tuxedo, confident, successful. Everyone turns around, whispers, Look, it's the Winters. He owns the largest advertising company in the region. And I'm nearby, a beautiful young wife, not like that Victoria of yours with her eternally businesslike appearance. Paul listened, and vanity flared up in his chest. Yes, he deserved this. He'd been nobody next to his successful wife for so many years. Time to become somebody. What about cars? He asked. What do you want? Camilla perked up, her eyes gleamed. Oh, I've already thought it all through. For you, a black premium SUV, powerful, executive. So clients see, you need to be reckoned with. For me, a white convertible, small, elegant, expensive. I'll drive around the city, let everyone see. And we also need a sedan for trips out of town and a sports car for entertainment. 4 cars? Paul shook his head. That's insane. It's status, Camilla corrected. People judge by appearance. If we look rich, we'll be respected. They'll invite us to closed events, offer profitable deals. And I want to be the center of attention. I want to be written about in society columns. She leaned closer, took his hand. Paul, trust me. I know how this world works. Money loves those who aren't afraid to spend it. We'll invest in image, and even bigger money will come to us. And let Victoria sit in her cell and regret that she lost such a man as you. Paul gave in to her words. Pictures were already forming in his head. He behind the wheel of a powerful SUV, Camilla nearby, radiant and satisfied. Receptions, restaurants, travel. He would finally become what he should have been all along. All right, he nodded. We'll buy the house, and the yacht, and the cars, everything you want. Camilla beamed with a smile, kissed him. I knew you'd agree. You're a real man, strong, decisive, not like those weaklings I dated before. They drank champagne, danced to music, made plans. Camilla already saw herself in the role of a socialite. Receptions, parties, expensive boutiques. What will people say? She suddenly asked. That you left your wife when she's in prison? They'll say I freed myself from ballast, Paul shrugged. Victoria always looked down on me, thought I wasn't worthy of her, and now I'm above her. You were always better, Camilla pressed against him. She just didn't appreciate you. Paul believed. He always believed what he wanted to hear. And at the cottage, Victoria was collecting the last documents. Paul and Camilla's correspondence, conversation recordings, forged papers, financial reports. Everything lay in neat folders on the table. Eli Gordon sat opposite, carefully studying. We have everything, he said finally. Fraud, document forgery, attempted theft, conspiracy. Paul will get real time. And Camilla? Victoria asked. Accomplice. She'll get time too. Maybe probation, but the conviction will remain. Good, Victoria nodded. When do we start? Tomorrow. Eli closed the folder. On Monday we file for divorce and simultaneously file a police report. Paul won't have time to react. Is Sophia ready to testify? Ready. I spoke with her yesterday. She's scared but agrees to tell everything. Victoria stood up, walked to the window. Outside it was getting dark. The moon was rising over the pines. So tomorrow it all ends, she said quietly. Yes, Eli confirmed. Your war ends in victory. She turned, looked at him. No, Eli, it ends in justice. On Sunday, Victoria called Paul one last time. Her voice trembled. She betrayed despair. Paul, she cried. Help, I'm begging you, get me out of here. I'm trying, Paul betrayed concern, but the lawyers say the case is complicated. Did you even hire a lawyer? Of course, he lied. The best, but they can't do anything yet. Paul, I won't survive prison. Victoria sobbed into the phone. Please. Hold on. He was already losing patience. I'm doing everything I can. He hung up. Victoria smirked. Last conversation, she told Nancy. Tomorrow he'll learn the truth. Nancy nodded. He deserves it. On Monday morning, Paul arrived at the office in an excellent mood. He'd already ordered a new nameplate for the office door. Paul Winters, CEO. He sat at the desk, opened his email. The first letter was from the notary. Documents registered. The company is now in your name. Paul smiled, exhaled. Victory. But he didn't know that at that very moment Eli Gordon was filing documents with the court and the police, that Victoria was getting out of a car at the courthouse, that Nancy Hartley was carrying all the original financial documents, that Sophia was preparing to give testimony. Paul was triumphant, but his triumph was his last. The storm was approaching, and it would sweep away everything in its path. Victoria entered the district attorney's office building at exactly 9 in the morning. She wore a strict business suit, hair gathered, light makeup. She looked exactly as a successful businesswoman should look, who had been illegally attempted to be destroyed. Eli Gordon was waiting for her in the lobby, holding a massive briefcase with documents. "Everything's ready," he said, shaking her hand. "Detective Sullivan will see us in 20 minutes. She's known for her principled approach and thoroughness." "Excellent," Victoria nodded. "The criminal complaint has been filed?" "Yes. Captain Walker transferred the investigation materials to the prosecutor's office yesterday evening. He remembers that anonymous call and already suspected a setup then." They went to the detective's office. Mary Sullivan met them with a stern gaze over her glasses. "Have a seat." She pointed to chairs in front of her desk. "Your complaint contains serious accusations. Explain the essence of the case in detail. I must decide the question of initiating a criminal case." Eli opened the briefcase, took out folders. "Detective Sullivan, my client, Mrs. Victoria Winters, became the victim of a criminal conspiracy by her own husband, Paul Winters, and his accomplice, Camilla Morgan. Their goal was to eliminate my client from business by fabricating evidence and subsequent arrest on false charges of possession of illegal substances." The detective listened attentively, making notes in a notepad. "Do you have evidence to initiate a criminal case?" "Yes, Detective Sullivan. First, testimony from witness Sophia Bennett, who was coerced into planting illegal substances in my client's office under threats against her family. Second, audio recordings of conversations between Paul Winters and Camilla Morgan discussing the criminal plan. Third, financial documents confirming attempted theft of company funds totaling over $15 million. Fourth, forged papers about transferring the business to Paul Winters' name with my client's falsified signature." Victoria silently watched as the detective reviewed the documents. Sullivan's face became increasingly severe with each page. "These are indeed serious accusations," she finally said. "Fraud on an especially large scale, document forgery, coercion. If everything is confirmed during the investigation, we're talking about imprisonment for a lengthy term." "Exactly, Detective Sullivan," Eli confirmed. "We request initiating a criminal case and choosing detention as a preventive measure for Paul Winters, considering the severity of the charges and the risk of obstructing the investigation." The detective nodded. "Is witness Bennett ready to give testimony right now?" "Yes. She's waiting in the corridor." "Invite her. I'll conduct the interrogation and document the testimony in the protocol." Sophia entered, pale but composed. The detective turned on the recorder, opened a protocol form. "Ms. Bennett," Sullivan began in an official tone, "tell me in detail what happened. Indicate dates, times, and locations as precisely as possible." Sophia took a deep breath. "On the 18th of last month, around 7 in the evening, Paul Winters approached me near my house. He offered me a job as assistant director for $40,000 a month. I agreed. But the next day, Camilla Morgan came. She said," Sophia's voice trembled, "that I had to plant a package with illegal substances in Mrs. Winters' office. Otherwise, my family would be threatened. Camilla said, 'Either you do as we say, or you'll have problems. You have a sick mother and a brother. Aren't you afraid for their lives?' I got scared." "You agreed?" Sullivan asked. "Yes. On the 20th, Paul Winters gave me a package with white powder and gloves. He said to plant it in Victoria Winters' cabinet when she went to lunch. In 15 minutes, the police were supposed to come. But Mrs. Winters returned early and caught me. I got scared and confessed everything to her. She ordered me to destroy the package contents." "Did you destroy it?" "Yes. Flushed the powder down the toilet. Threw the package and gloves in there, too." The detective nodded. "Thank you. Sign the protocol." Sophia signed. The detective dismissed her, told her not to leave the city. When Sophia left, Sullivan looked at Victoria. "Mrs. Winters, do you have more evidence?" "Yes, Detective Sullivan." Victoria opened her folder. Here are audio recordings of my husband's conversations with Camilla Morgan. They discuss how to take over my business, how to forge my signature on documents about transferring the company, how to keep me in detention longer by not hiring a lawyer. Eli laid out financial documents on the table. Here are reports from the company's CFO, Nancy Hartley. She documented all of Paul Winters' attempts to withdraw funds from the company's accounts. The total amount is $15 million. He demanded the money be transferred to shell company accounts, but the accountant transferred them to Mrs. Winters' reserve accounts and showed Paul fake payment orders. Is the accountant ready to testify? Yes, and provide all documents. Excellent. I'll summon her for interrogation tomorrow, the detective wrote. What about the forged documents about transferring the company? Victoria took out a folder with papers. Here are the documents Paul processed through a bribed notary. My signature on them is forged. I can provide samples of my real signature for handwriting analysis. Sullivan carefully studied the papers. The falsification is visible even to the naked eye, but we'll definitely conduct an examination. Notary Oliver Tremont? Yes. Good. We'll interrogate him too. The detective closed the folder, looked at Victoria and Eli. I have sufficient grounds to initiate a criminal case. And the preventive measure? Eli asked. I'll prepare a motion to the court to choose detention as a preventive measure. Considering the severity of the crimes and the possibility of fleeing, the court will most likely grant the motion. Victoria exhaled. The first part of the plan was complete. Thank you, Detective Sullivan. Don't thank me prematurely, the detective said sternly. There's an investigation ahead. Examinations, interrogations, evidence collection. This will take at least 2 months. Then the case will go to the prosecutor's office for approval of the indictment, and only after that, to court. We understand, Eli nodded. Excellent. Then wait for summons for additional interrogations. And now I'll handle processing the resolution to initiate a criminal case and organizing the arrest. Victoria and Eli left the district attorney's office building. Outside, the sun was shining, a light wind blowing. She'll initiate the case, Eli said. Sullivan isn't one of those who sweeps cases under the rug. I hope so. Victoria looked at her watch. How much time until Paul's arrest? A few hours. Need to process documents, get the supervisor's authorization, send operatives. So by evening he'll already be in detention, Victoria smirked. Interesting what he'll feel. At that time, Paul was sitting in his new office, enjoying coffee. Before him lay documents about transferring the company. He reread them for the 10th time, smiling. The phone rang. Camilla. Paul, did you see the news? Her voice sounded agitated. What news? They're saying some businesswoman was set up. It's not about Vicky, is it? Paul frowned, turned on the TV, but there was no news about Victoria. He exhaled. Camilla, calm down. It's not about her. Vicky's sitting. Are you sure? Absolutely. Stop panicking. He hung up, but anxiety crept into his soul. Something wasn't right. Too quiet. Too calm. At 3 p.m, the office door burst open. 4 people entered. Captain Walker and 3 plainclothes detectives. Paul Winters? Walker asked. Yes. Paul tried to stand, but his legs buckled. What happened? You're detained on suspicion of committing crimes under fraud, forgery, and coercion statutes. Please follow us. This is a mistake, Paul shouted. I didn't do anything. You'll tell everything to the detective, Walker said calmly. There's a resolution to initiate a criminal case and a detention protocol. Will you come voluntarily, or should we put on handcuffs? Paul sank back into the chair. Everything collapsed. All plans, all dreams, all confidence. I'll go, he squeezed out. They led him out of the office under the astonished gazes of employees. Nancy Hartley stood by her office, watching. There wasn't a drop of regret on her face. In the car, Paul tried to say something, but they didn't let him. Be quiet. Your right to defense will be explained at the station. They brought him to the district attorney's office, led him to an interrogation room. Bare walls, a table, 2 chairs, a surveillance camera in the corner. He sat, clutching his head, not understanding what had happened. An hour later, Detective Sullivan entered. She sat opposite, opened a folder. Mr. Winters, I, Detective Mary Sullivan, am explaining your rights to you. You're detained on suspicion of committing a crime. You have the right to defense, the right to invite a lawyer, the right not to testify against yourself. Understood? I want a lawyer, Paul croaked. We'll arrange a call now, but first I'll explain what you're suspected of. She read out the charges. Fraud on an especially large scale, document forgery, coercion. With each word, Paul's face grew paler. We have testimony from witness Bennett, whom you coerced into planting illegal substances. We have audio recordings of your conversations with Camilla Morgan. We have financial documents about the attempted theft of $15 million. We have forged papers with your wife's fake signature. What do you say? Paul was silent, staring at the table. You have the right not to answer. But no, there's enough evidence of your guilt and intent. But my wife, she's in jail, Paul muttered. Your wife is free, Sullivan said harshly. She was never arrested. You were misled. Paul raised his head, eyes widened. What? No illegal substances were found in her office, because Bennett destroyed everything on your wife's orders. Mrs. Winters has been collecting evidence against you all this time, and she collected it. Now you're here, and she's free. Paul couldn't breathe. The room spun. This, impossible. Very possible. Call your lawyer. You have 5 minutes. They gave him a phone. He dialed his lawyer acquaintance's number, but he didn't answer. Dialed a second. Also silence. A third declined the call. They already knew, and didn't want to be involved with a losing case. Paul was taken to a temporary detention facility. A small cell, concrete walls, a metal cot, a dirty toilet in the corner. He sat, burying his face in his palms. It was all over. Victoria had outplayed him, deceived, lured into a trap, collected evidence, and he thought he'd won. At that time, Victoria was being greeted at the office with ovations. Employees applauded when she entered. Ellen was wiping tears of joy. Mrs. Winters, we're so glad. Thank you, Victoria smiled. Thank you all. Let's get back to work. We have business waiting. She walked to her office. Everything was in place. Desk, chair, documents. She sat down, looked around. Finally, she was home. Nancy brought folders with financial reports. All the money Paul tried to withdraw is safe, she reported. Not a penny is missing. Excellent, Victoria nodded. The forged documents were transferred to the investigation? Yes. Experts have already started working. Good. Now let's deal with the divorce. Eli Gordon arrived in an hour. Divorce documents are prepared, he said. Considering the circumstances, the criminal case against your husband, the court will decide quickly. In a month, you'll be free. And the property division? Paul won't get anything. The company is registered in your name. All assets are yours. The prenuptial agreement is well drafted. Plus, he committed a crime against you. The court will side with you. Victoria smiled. Justice has prevailed. Camilla was detained on the evening of the same day. She tried to leave the city by train, but was stopped at the station based on an alert. They brought her to the same detention facility where Paul was sitting. In the interrogation room, she sobbed, smearing mascara across her face. I didn't know anything, she screamed to Detective Sullivan. This is all Paul. He made me. We have audio recordings of your conversations, Sullivan answered calmly, where you together planned the crime, discussed buying a house, yacht, cars with Victoria Winters' money. You're a full accomplice, and you'll get a sentence. But I didn't want to. He promised me wealth, love, a wedding. Many promise. Sullivan shrugged. Few deliver. You threatened Bennett, coerced her into a crime. That's an aggravating circumstance. They took Camilla to a cell. She screamed, cried, but no one listened. Sophia came to Victoria the next morning. Mrs. Winters, I want to apologize, she began, but Victoria stopped her. No need. You made the right choice. You told me the truth. You gave testimony to the detective. That's worth a lot. Thank you. Sophia lowered her eyes. I understand if you want to fire me. On the contrary, Victoria smiled. I want to offer you the position of secretary. Ellen is moving to another city to be with her daughter. She'll help take care of her grandson. Are you ready to temporarily take her place? Sophia couldn't believe her ears. But why do you trust me? After all, Because you passed the test. You were intimidated. Your family was threatened. But you found the strength to tell the truth. There are few such people. I value that. Sophia cried with gratitude. I won't let you down. I promise. I know. Victoria handed her a tissue. Start working today. Ellen will bring you up to speed. 2 weeks passed. The investigation was in full swing. Sullivan conducted dozens of interrogations, ordered examinations, collected additional evidence. Paul and Camilla sat in detention. The court granted the motion to choose detention as a preventive measure. Victoria filed for divorce. The judge scheduled a hearing in 3 weeks. The marriage will be dissolved quickly, Eli assured her, considering that Paul is under investigation in a criminal case where you're the victim. And indeed, in 3 weeks, the judge issued a decision in 20 minutes. The marriage between Victoria Winters and Paul Winters is dissolved. Victoria left the courtroom a free woman. Eli met her outside. Congratulations, you won. We won, she corrected. What now? Now we wait for the investigation to conclude, then the trial of Paul, and then a new life. Victoria looked at the sky. It was clear, blue, without a single cloud, without traitors, without lies. She returned to the office. Employees were working, phones ringing, business going on. Everything like before. No, better than before. Because now she knew whom she could trust. Nancy came to her in the evening. Mrs. Winters, Detective Sullivan called, said the investigation is concluding. In a month, the case will be transferred to the prosecutor's office. So the trial is soon, Victoria nodded. Nancy thought. You know, I always thought Paul was just a weak person, but it turned out he's also vile. Envy makes people into monsters, Victoria said. He could have built his own business, could have developed, learned, but he preferred to steal someone else's. And he paid for it. Exactly. Victoria remained alone in the office. She sat at the desk, opened the laptop. Before her were plans for the future, new projects, new horizons, new contracts. The trial of Paul Winters and Camilla Morgan began a month later. The courtroom was full. Journalists, company employees, defendants' relatives. Victoria sat in the first row, next to Eli Gordon. She was calm and composed. Paul was brought into the courtroom. He'd lost weight in these weeks, looked haggard, eyes sunken. When he saw Victoria, he tried to look away, but she looked at him directly, without anger, without pity. Just looked. Camilla was brought in next. She looked pitiful, disheveled hair, red eyes, trembling hands. The bright, self-confident woman had turned into a frightened girl. The judge opened the hearing. The prosecutor read the indictment, presented evidence, financial reports, forged papers. We have irrefutable evidence of both defendants' guilt. We request sentencing Paul Winters to 7 years imprisonment, Camilla Morgan to 3 years probation. The defense tried to dispute. Paul's lawyer claimed his client acted in a state of affect, that his spouse drove him to despair with her disdain. But there was no evidence, only words. Camilla's lawyer insisted her client was misled by Paul Winters, that She didn't understand the seriousness of her actions, but the conversation recording said otherwise. Camilla knew perfectly well what she was doing. They interrogated Sophia. She told everything calmly, clearly. How Paul approached her, how Camilla threatened, how she planted the package. Paul listened, head down. Camilla cried, wiping tears with a handkerchief. Victoria also gave testimony. "Tell us what you felt when you learned about your husband's plans," the prosecutor asked. Victoria paused, choosing words. "Betrayal is terrible. When a person you trusted for 15 years is ready to destroy you for money. But I didn't break. I collected evidence and took back what rightfully belongs to me." After 3 hours, the judge retired to issue a verdict. Victoria went out into the corridor, drank water from the cooler. Eli approached her. "How are you feeling?" "Tired," she admitted. "But holding up. The verdict will be fair. The evidence is ironclad." "I know." The judge returned in an hour and a half. Everyone stood. The verdict was announced. Paul Winters is sentenced to 6 years imprisonment in a general regime colony. Camilla Morgan, to 3 years probation with a 2-year probationary period. The hearing is adjourned. Paul covered his face with his hands. Camilla cried even louder. Victoria stood up, took her bag, left the courtroom. Eli caught up with her on the steps. "Mrs. Winters, it's all behind you." "Yes," she smiled. "Now we can live on." She returned to the office for lunch. Employees greeted her with applause. Nancy came up, hugged her. "Congratulations. Justice has prevailed." "Thank you. Couldn't have done it without you." "You would have managed." Nancy shook her head. "You have an iron will." Sophia brought coffee, placed it on the desk. "Mrs. Winters, I wanted to say thank you for the trust, for the chance." "You earned it." Victoria looked at her. "Work well, learn. There's a big future ahead." Sophia nodded, wiping tears. In the evening, Victoria remained in the office alone. She opened the laptop, checked email, letters from partners, clients, congratulations on the court victory. Everyone wished success, offered new projects. She answered the most important ones, closed the email. She stood up, walked to the window. The city was falling asleep. Lights were turning on one after another. Life continued. Victoria turned off the light in the office, left the building. She got in the car, started the engine, drove home. A large apartment in the city center. Quiet, empty. But now it was her fortress. Without lies, without betrayal. She sat on the sofa in the living room and remembered that day when she caught Sophia with the package. How her heart stopped, how the world turned upside down. But she didn't give up. She pulled herself together, fought, won. Now ahead was a new life, without traitors, without fear. With a reliable team and clear goals. Tomorrow would be a new day, new tasks, new victories, and she was ready.